Aunt Shirley was not known for her empathy. She was known for remarks that cut straight to the bone. And she was known for also always dressing the part, especially if the part was from Talbot's and included a simple strand of pearls. So, of course, she was flattered when my cousin asked her to walk him down the aisle at his wedding. Both his mother and my mother, his other aunt, were long gone, so the honor fell to Shirley. Then my cousin informed her that the wedding theme was Hawaii, since that was where he met his fiancée. It gets worse. All the women in the wedding party were wearing muumuus, and hers was in the mail. Let me tell you this, Shirley Fishbein did not wear muumuus. While she wanted to honor her sister's memory and to be her stand-in for a beloved nephew, she was not about to wear a muumuu. Shirley called me despondent when she tried on the muumuu, crying through the phone line, "I look like a tropical jungle." After much back and forth, Shirley realized how important this was to him. Though not perfect, she was able to put herself in her nephew's place. Shirley, too, had her share of losses and disappointments. She was the only surviving sister. My cousin, in addition to losing his parents, also lost his only sibling. So despite her concerns with appearances, Shirley did not want to add one more disappointment to her nephew on his big day. She took the muumuu to her dressmaker, because Shirley Fishbein had a dressmaker. Had the muumuu turned into an A-line dress, and with a simple strand of pearls, escorted her nephew down the aisle, and then went straight to the ladies' room and changed into the dress she had intended to wear. The memories of her own losses allowed Shirley to summon her empathy for her nephew. Time and again, the Torah reminds us not to forget. Rabbi Shai Held writes, one of the Torah's central projects is to turn memory into empathy and moral responsibility. Having tasted the suffering and degradation to which vulnerability can lead, we are bidden not to oppress the stranger. But empathy has gotten a bad name lately. Two recent best-selling books are Toxic Empathy and The Sin of Empathy. More alarming, Elon Musk told Joe Rogan on his podcast, the fundamental weakness of Western civilization is empathy. The ability to walk in another's shoes or to see into another's heart seems to be a lost art. Once upon a time, we invited our neighbor over for dinner without first checking who they voted for. Once upon a time, we could have a discussion without it turning into a debate where one must win and the other must lose. Once upon a time, we did not reserve our most vitriolic language for those who did not subscribe to our particular ideology. And once upon a time, a political assassination brought our country together rather than tearing it even farther apart. This is not the Jewish way. Repeatedly, the Torah admonishes us to treat others with empathy. In fact, given our own history of enslavement, of dispersion, and of persecution, empathy should be our default response. Countless times, we are admonished to know the heart of the oppressed, because we were the oppressed in the land of Egypt. Passover, the holiday observed by more Jews than any other, perfects this notion. As we sit around the Seder table, we reenact our journey from enslavement to freedom. Why? In the Haggadah we read, in every generation one must see oneself as if they had personally come out of Egypt. In Exodus chapter 22, God instructs us, if you lend money to my people, to the poor among you, do not act toward them as a creditor. As he often does, Rashi, the great commentator, looks at just one or two words and discerns deeper meaning from the text. In Hebrew, the poor among you is et ha'ni'imach. Rashi points out that there's another way of translating et ha'ni'imach. Given Hebrew grammar, the words can also be understood to mean the poor person within you. Rashi interprets this as an instruction to look at ourselves as if we were poor, to imagine ourselves as if we were in need of a loan, to recall a time when we may have been in financial straits. It is not a good place to find oneself. To imagine that if we need a loan, we may need some time to get back on our feet, so that eventually we can repay back that loan. In other words, Rashi tells us this verse teaches us to employ empathy. There are numerous reasons for how and why we find ourselves in this situation, where so many are turning away from empathy. Elaine Scarry, a literary professor at Harvard, writes, the human capacity to injure other people is very great, precisely because our capacity to imagine other people is very small. If we take nothing else from Torah, from all of Jewish experience, it should be to imagine other people. Many things work against this. The primatologist Franz de Waal wrote that we've evolved to hate our enemies, to ignore people we barely know, and to distrust anybody who does not look like us. Social media, which held the promise of opening up our worlds, has served only to make them smaller, making us prisoners of our own echo chamber. The long-term result of the pandemic is that few of us leave home to go to work every day. Fewer of us regularly get on a train or bus, sitting next to people so different from us. We no longer overhear their conversations about their lives, even if it's annoying, or hear the different languages they speak. We no longer walk by the unhoused person or see the worker behind the deli counter. Judaism has always been a countercultural enterprise, and it is this into which we must lean. If the world is becoming crueler, we must double down on the practice of empathy. Empathy is a muscle, and we must exercise it. We can all begin by putting down our phones. Take a lesson from Trader Joe's. Those cashiers are relentlessly polite, asking us how we are. Give them an answer and ask them how they are. And don't stop there. Be nice to your beleaguered barista. Do something where you are with other people. I know I'm preaching to the choir because, after all, here you are. Again, don't stop there. Get involved in a cause. Campaign for a candidate. That's a wonderful way to meet new people and sometimes get a door slammed in your face. I speak from personal experience. But that's okay because it is a measure of people's emotion. Pack food for those who do not have enough to eat. Stand up for others. Donate money to a cause you believe in. Speak up when someone makes a discriminatory comment. Advocate for things that will help others, even when, and especially when, they do not directly affect you. Read books. Read both fiction and nonfiction. Read books by and about people who live lives that are radically different from your own. The British novelist George Eliot wrote that she wanted her novels to leave her readers better able to imagine and to feel the pains and joys of those who differ from them in everything but the broad fact of being struggling, erring human creatures. And this next one will be hard for some of us. Learn to be quiet. Put away your phone when someone is talking to you and just listen. And when you do speak, ask questions. Ask open-ended questions. And finally, raise empathetic children. Begin by reading books with them about a wide variety of characters, of different backgrounds from different places. Ask your children to consider another person's experience. When they have done something wrong to someone else, ask them how they think the other person is feeling. What could be done to make them feel better? Model social media time for them, social media free time for them, especially at dinner, and teach them to fight stereotypes. The words on the front of our temple facing Broad Street come, as you now know, from the prophet Micah, if you didn't already know. Chapter 6, verse 8. You have been told, O mortal, what is good, and what God requires of you, only to do justly, to love mercy, to walk humbly with your God. Aside from being well known, I imagine these words were chosen because they distill religion to the fundamental obligations of one to another. To our neighbors as they drove by, we reminded them that these universal words had a Jewish source. But when the prophet Micah uttered these words, they were words of castigation. In an engraving from the 19th century, the French artist Gustave Doré captures the prophet preaching to an assembly of Israelites. Micah stands above the people with his arms raised. And the Israelites, most of them, were looking away as the prophet spoke. They stare at the ground or off into the distance. Many look weary. They are being exhorted to do justice, to love goodness, to walk humbly with God, precisely because they were doing none of these things. Looking at the print, one can only imagine that this is not the first time, nor would it be the last, that Micah would speak these words. But when these words were affixed to the front of our building, they were done so with pride. While these words are universal, we saw this as our particular mission, what we could offer to our neighbor, to our community, to our world. These days, it seems as if no one is listening. We see all too few examples of doing justice, of loving goodness, of walking humbly with God to feel any measure of success. We have only to read the day's headlines or listen to the news to feel discouraged. Were Micah to show up today, would he receive any better a reception than he did in the print I just described? The prophet offers us a prescription for how to live our lives. And why should we do all of this? The Torah offers us a compelling reason. Because we know what it feels like. We know what it is like to live in a world that is unjust. We know what it is like to live in a world without goodness. We know what it is like to have others lord their status over us. Simply put, we must never do to others what was done to us. This is who we must be, now more than ever. If not on Rosh Hashanah, well then tell me when. Today is the day to take one small step, and then tomorrow take another step, and keep doing it again and again until it becomes effortless. In the coming year, each of us will have countless opportunities to flex our empathy muscles. this time next year, I hope we will be stronger than ever. Shana Tova.